Project Run 2, the biggest Minecraft mapmaker collaboration project ever, finally released. My friend Lazy and I had the honor of making one of the first levels on this map, which basically half of all playthroughs pass, so we really thought through all aspects of the level. That's why today I thought I'd give some insights into what the process of building this level was like, and what kinds of choices we made and why. While editing, I realized that this video ended up being a lot longer than I had originally anticipated, so I've placed timestamps in the description, and I think there should be chapters on this video, so you can skip around to the bits that you're actually interested in. So if you don't know how this map overall works, I recommend you go check out Dom's video, which will be linked down in the description, which basically explains the whole project really well in my opinion, and you should check out the project itself anyway. And as you might notice, there are different kinds of levels. Some of them just go straight like this, some have 2 entrances and 1 exit. Ours is a T-split, which basically means it has 1 entrance and 2 exits to both sides. So we wanted to make it so that our level would actually sort of like go 2 different routes the whole way. So it wouldn't just be 1 route and then at the end it splits off to 2 separate ways. No, that's not our style at all. So we decided to split off the routes at the very start. So one of the things that we thought was very important was that if you take the left route, you'll end up on the left side, and if you take the right route, you'll end up on the right side. Even though the paths go all over each other and all across the map, both of them, you'll still end up where you originally aimed for, and that's just for clarity's sake, basically. Now, because we wanted to make the 2 separate routes, and we wanted to make them not just go their separate ways or just be mirrored versions of each other, we wanted to actually like have them overlap and such, go all over the place. And now, as a concept, that's great, but there's gonna be issues with that. For instance, if you just have it be normal parkour, and then you're on a route that goes above the other route, and then you fall down to the other route, you'll then be stuck on the other route. It'll just get really confusing for the player really quickly, so we quickly realized that we need to have some sort of a differentiating factor on both the routes. And since we had already picked this kind of a bluish color scheme and block palette, we thought Tridents would work. I think it was Lazy's idea that we could use the different types of Tridents. So on one side we had the Riptide Trident, and on the other side we had the Loyalty Trident, and the idea would be just simply that the Riptide Trident, you could boost yourself to different places from water, and with the Loyalty Trident you could shoot these targets, and then it would activate all kinds of mechanisms and ways that you could basically continue forward. And that would be the sort of differentiating factor. Now, we weren't actually going to have lava here at all, since we couldn't really come up with anything else to put there, and water would be the obvious answer, but then again we want to keep the consistency and clarity in. So for instance, we have to actually have the player go inside these water puddles for the Riptide Trident route, and if there was water at the bottom that then killed you, that would be quite a disconnect in the consistency and would just be really confusing for the player. I know a bunch of map makers do that, but I don't really support that. I think it's odd and doesn't really serve the purpose at all. So that's how we settled with the lava. Now, one thing as proper game designers that we took into account was introducing the player to the concepts of these tridents. So for both of these tridents we had their own like tutorial section. So here, for instance, instead of just serving them the Riptide Trident here and expecting them to realize that they have to boost over to that side, we actually first led them down to this separate area, which you could only escape by using the mechanic itself. So you can't jump out of here in any way. Basic point is that when they get the trident, they actually realize how they're supposed to use it, and from now on they'll actually be able to like realize, oh, whenever there's a water puddle, I just use this to boost myself over to the next bit. And the same applies to the other trident. You're really left with no other way out except for using it to shoot this target block, which will then reveal the way out. So whenever they see the target, they should just automatically go, aha, I'm supposed to shoot that. And then they can proceed. And in our general style, we obviously wanted to make the parkour reuse the same bits and overlap. So for instance, where the other route would go here, the other route would come here and use the same slime block to jump over to this side. And for instance, where the Riptide route went there, we could... God damn it, I can't shoot. We could bring the pillar up for the other route. Now, me being my overambitious self, thought I came up with some fun ideas. For instance, the two routes using the same bits. And we did that 2 times here. One where they use the same bit but go the opposite ways. And then the other bit here where they go the same way. So as you can probably see here, for one of the routes you come from that side, from one of the routes you come from that side, and you'll be placed on the same route here. So no matter which way you come from, here or here, you'll be placed here. And we used this wall here to make sure that they wouldn't accidentally go the other way. So you can see that if it was a bit more open, you might be tempted to go this way. So that's why we made it very, very clear that that's not where you're supposed to go. And once they've completed the shared bit, the mechanics would come into play. So for the Riptide Trident, you'd see this water puddle, and you'd want to go that way. And for the Loyalty Trident, you'd see this target, through it, and a new path would be blown up. Now the other bit where we did this shared path idea was here, right under the start of the level, where they actually go opposite ways. So basically just guided them the opposite ways. You wouldn't even really realize that there was an exit behind you as well there. And same for the other way, where they come out from the iron doors. But then you couldn't really go backwards on the other route for too long, because there'd be some sort of an obstacle. Here the iron doors, and they're just the height of the jump that would be stopping you from proceeding any further. And then you'd have to use the mechanic again. I forgot I was using the Loyalty Trident. Anyway, you just have to use the mechanic again to proceed further. And there were a few bits that were actually quite interesting. For instance, there's the fun thing that here you could genuinely just run down here and you'd be skipping an entire section, but we basically relied on the first time player. We don't really care what people do in their speedruns. If they want to take this skip, then fine, go and take it. But for first time players, we really thought that, I mean, who is tempted to jump that way? They can't see what's down there, really. And you've got a clear route this way, so we just relied on the player's intuition to not take the skip and get confused. Another one of those kinds of skips was here with the Riptide Trident. You could literally just boost up here instead of taking that little detour. But, I mean, you don't know that when you're here. So, I mean, obviously you'll just take the normal route, see where it goes, and then maybe here you'll be like, oh, I could have just jumped there. Oh well, too bad, I'm already here. And here quite a few people, when we did our playtest, because we always do playtests to see where we could improve and where people are getting lost, and we realized a lot of people were here, instead of aiming for the hay bales there, on the other side, which is the intended route, a lot of people were actually going up here. So we basically just placed another little puddle here, hoping they'd finally, at least here, realize that they have to go this way. Oh, also one of the things that I forgot to mention was, we also feared that what if you do actually accidentally fall onto the other route, and then you'll press checkpoint on that route first. And we just basically combated this problem with placing different kinds of checkpoints. So some of this gold and some of this iron, or lights and heavyweight, whatever. So the checkpoints would be different, and then you wouldn't accidentally be getting, if you were on the Riptide route, you wouldn't be getting these checkpoints. If I run over here, you can see that no ding. But if I go onto this checkpoint, ding, and I get a checkpoint. So yeah, that's cool. one more interesting thing was here with this ice water snake, which is first just ice and then turns into water when you hit that target with the trident. Here we noticed quite a few difficulties. So, well, first of all, we did it so that there wouldn't be a separate platform here that you'd stand on. You'd actually just stay at the end of this snake, and what would happen is when you hit the target, the ice would just melt from beneath your feet, and you'd instantly realize that something's changed, and you'd be like, oh, this is water now, because you just fall down into the water. Another thing was, before we had this little lava fall here and this little bump of lava, a lot of people would just run through here and, you know, drop down, because that felt intuitive. It felt intuitive to just keep going where you were going. So that's why we placed this sort of like restricted view here, so you wouldn't be incentivized to really jump through there, and even if you were, you would first realize that there's a target right there in front of you, and that seemed to help. And I mean, otherwise this was a very interesting level as well, because this is very large scale for a singular level. We are used to making this kind of parkour, so like the creation of the parkour itself wasn't too difficult for us, since we have made a bunch of our own maps and worked for Hilka. But this scale for one singular level was quite something else. So this level definitely presented itself with quite some challenges as to how we were gonna like utilize the space and what kinds of shapes we were gonna have and different sections and such. And yeah, overall this was a very interesting level to make that took like months of time and procrastination to finish. And the whole project was fun to do. I mean, Lazy and I were both project leads, so we also helped on a bunch of other plots. We helped with the cubed plot, which is the first plot, and we also helped with making some of these connection bits. And it was just a fun time. A fun project, fun time. Long project, long wait, but definitely worth it. Go and play it, definitely. Well, by the way, if you want to see more stuff from Lazy and I, you should check out our server, play.hexacube.net. On this server we have a few of our maps and a couple of minigames designed by Lazy and I and a couple of friends, and a ton of work has gone into this project, so we'd greatly appreciate it if you stopped by for a visit and maybe even bought a rank from the store. I guess I'll see you later. Bye bye.